Everybody mute, there's background noise. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to this week's Building Power Grassroots Education Advocacy. With me, I'm your host, Zakiya Sankara-Jabar. I am so excited to welcome my guest today. If you've been with us the last 4 weeks, you know that the normal platform has been to just have me and one other person have a very important conversation about different topics around African-centered education, around what building grassroots education advocacy looks like, particularly in the Black community. And so today I felt it was so fitting to really welcome this couple who I see, of course, as family, as friends, but also as mentors. And I call them Mama Afiya and Baba Wekesa Madzimoyo. And I'm excited that they have decided to join me today. I have an immense amount of respect for the work that they have done. I've been in relationship with them now for several years. They've been to our community when we were organizing in Dayton to provide trainings and coaching sessions around healing oppression's wounds. They have a model that they call Warriors, Healers, and Builders that you will hear about in this session. So I'm excited about that. So I'm going to go ahead and read their bio. There's a short bio for both of them now. Let's see, I think we have a little bit of background noise if everybody can go on mute. And anyway, so Afiya and Wekesa Madzimoyo, they have been married since December 31st, 1988, and have since then worked side by side building several organizations. Chief among them is the Ayah Educational Institute, which you will hear about today. Currently, Wekesa serves as the head of school and Afiya serves as the lead administrator. The Ayah Educational Institute provides quality educational alternatives and resources for youth and adults of African descent. Since 1988, Ayah's programs have immersed students, parents, and other adults into an African-centered educational and social environment that is rich in our past and our culture. These tools enable them to succeed in their current future responsibilities to themselves, their families, our community, our people, and the world, in that order. Currently, Ayah has a full-day school with 34 total students who are located around the USA, and Ayah has been on a web platform via online for almost 16 years now. Wekesa also serves as the lead trainer and is the originator of national workshops called Healing Oppression's Wounds, Warriors, Healers, and Builders, and Sankofa Math. Using an African-centered frame, African Americans support each other in healing the wounds that are created by external and injected oppression, starting with ourselves and extending it out into our community and into our work lives. So without further ado, I want to bring in Mama Afiya and Baba Wekesa and just allow them to share any other things that they'd like for this audience to know about who they are and how they got so grounded and centered in healing our community and starting an African-centered homeschool. Baba Wekesa, why don't you go first?
I was trained well, so I'd like Mama Afiya to go first.
Let's do it.
Okay, right. So let's see. Mama Zakiya, actually, I started out close to where you kind of started out, there in Alabama, central Alabama. Mama Zakiya was in Selma for some time. I was there in Autauga County between Montgomery and Selma. And of course, back in the day when I came along, I'm a civil rights baby. So I was doing what I thought we needed to do at the time. In fact, integrated a school in the 5th grade. And I have subsequently come to apologize to young people for that, for my participation in that, as I see that it brought us what it brought us. And I won't even deny that there were some positive things. And I also know that we lost a lot of ground. And since that time, back that time though, 5th grade, I was always clear that I wanted to do what I could to progress our people. And back in those days, those central Alabama days, I was clear about oppression then, and I'm clear about it now. So yeah, I'll start with that, and then of course connecting with Wekesa, I had a partner, and it's been on.
All right, it has been on. We've been married together 33 years. I think 31 officially married, and 2 years shacking, and all of those were important. Um, um, the work, our central work, is called alternately Healing Oppression's Wounds or Warriors, Healers, and Builders. Okay, and whether we're working with communication, conflict resolution in the Black community, whether we're working as our organization try to build businesses or susus or organizations, underneath what we discovered is that oppression had been implanted or injected in our communication with ourselves and in our communications with each other. Therefore, our work together always would compromise. And the closer we get to success, the more fragmentation would come and backbiting would come and all those things that the oppressor would tell us are innate in us. And of course, we know that's not the case. You don't start civilization like we started civilization. You don't build, whether you're talking about over 1,000 city-states in West Africa, or you talk about ancient Kemet, which people call Egypt, you don't build those things with 10,000 years of unbroken civilization when conflict and backbiting is at your nature. We know then that those have been things injected in us by the process of captivity and the continued oppression that we face. And so our thing was, let's go beyond announcing that the chains are on our minds. It's like, okay, bet the chains are on our minds. Where are they and how can we break them? And let's get about the business of getting past announcing it to say, let's do some remedy of it. And so when we say healing oppression's wounds, then that's what we began to look at that. And it doesn't matter if we're going to be teaching our children and you have not looked at and healed the wounds of oppression. If you have not begun to develop yourself as a warrior, healer, and builder, then the wounds that we have will be passed on while I'm teaching STEM, while I'm teaching language arts. Those same unhealed wounds will be passed on. And so for us, warriors, healers, and builders, right? Healing oppression's wounds became central and foundational to whether we're to personal and leadership development among our people.
And Mama Zakiya, if I can jump in real quick, the way that I got connected up with that work and getting connected up with Wekesa was very major for me. It was very life-changing. And I just want to tell a little bit about what happened, because it does relate back to my integration piece and my part in it. When I first met Wekesa, he was doing this workshop in a church, and he made the statement. He and some colleagues had come up with this theory called racial scripting theory. He made the statement that white people have been scripted to believe themselves superior to Black people. Black people that we've been scripted, trained, socialized to see ourselves as inferior to white people. At that time, I couldn't hear that. And he said it twice, and I actually stood up in that church and adamantly disagreed and made my case. My case was that I went to their school in the 5th grade and proved to them that I was just as smart, or maybe even smarter. I went on to their undergraduate school, graduated top of my class, and then to their graduate school, and I proved that I was as intelligent, as smart. And fortunately, on that day, I heard myself say that word "proved," as did everyone else in the church. And I sat down, as they say, you could hear a rat piss on cotton, and I got it. And I knew then that my work was healing from that wound, that I was not smart enough. Because if I'd known it, I wouldn't have had to prove it. And if my parents had known it, and the whole NAACP who had this idea of integration, if we'd been really clear, then we might have not taken that path. So again, it was life-changing, and the work became to heal some of those wounds of oppression.
Oh my goodness, that's so rich. And I really appreciate you all sharing and the vulnerability that it takes to like really share that like with the whole world. And I know that there are people listening right now who can certainly identify with this. And so I want to encourage the audience to make sure that you're posting your questions and comments. Be sure that you're sharing this video. We're going to be talking about healing, certainly what that looks like in this moment. There's a lot of isolation that's happening with people. There's this idea of, lots of anxiety. I've been talking to parents about reopening schools and it's impossible decision of people feeling like, wow, I have to choose my health over whether I have money to pay my bills, and how that is just unconscionable, really, in and all of itself. And so I really wanted to get into some of these tools. I have been trained in warriors, healers, and builders, so I'm excited for the world to kind of hear a little bit about the tools and theories and strategies that you all use in the training and coaching that you do all around the country. Can you share a little bit more about what's the warrior part, right? What does it mean to be a builder and finally healing? Come on, Baba.
Okay, great. So Afia, let's do tag team. I'll do warrior, you do healer, back to builder. Okay, all right. So the first of all, this WHB Warriors, Healers, and Builders set. So it's a mindset and a tool set, and it's not the men are the warriors and the women need to be the healers. No, we all need to become skilled warriors, healers, and builders. I want to say that because some people think and they go to, here's what the healers need to do, and here's what the warriors. No, we all need to be skilled warriors, healers, and builders. And when we say warriors, we mean first we recognize that our people via oppression are aggressed upon, okay, have been and continue to be. Now, we are being warred upon. Now, many of us have not engaged it, okay, the war. We're being warred upon. And so 9 minutes with your knee on my neck is an example of that. And there are many other less graphic, but just as deadly examples of that. And so because we have been and continue to be aggressed upon and warred upon, then it is incumbent upon all of us to develop a mindset to challenge that and a skill set to challenge it, and to know the difference between when we're fighting and when we need to be healing and when we need to be building. So back to your question of what is a warrior? For us, it's really simple. When I'm actively challenging people, policies, and practices that aggress on our people, that oppress our people, I don't care whether they were intended to or not. If it's a person, if it's a policy, if it's a practice, when I am actively opposing that, okay, then I'm in my warrior mode. This is important because some people think if I'm talking about it, I'm in my warrior mode. If I'm training for it, I'm in my warrior mode. No, all of those are necessary. I'm in my warrior mode when in fact I'm challenging it. Why is it important to know the distinction? Because it takes different skills and different preparation for each one of them. When I hit somebody, I need to expect for them to hit back. I need to prepare for the hit back. I need to raise my family to prepare for the hit back. I need to build my business to prepare for the hit back. I don't need to operate as if I'm in some meritocracy and oppression doesn't exist or it went away. So when I challenge oppression, just like when we've challenged the police and with these different rules, it says, okay, you don't have unlimited immunity. Then folks says, well, if I can't shoot black folks in the back at will, then I'm going to quit. Okay. Well, part of the quit, all right, is the pushback. All right. And some of us believe that the spate of killing on the 4th of July weekend was not just random and it wasn't just black on black, whatever. All right. And so what I'm saying is I need to prepare to hit back, to challenge people, policies, and practices. And I need to do that. The preparation is how do I do it? I'll say one more thing about that. One reason that I got my woman out of Alabama, okay? All right, one reason that I chose this powerful, wonderful black woman is because her father had challenged the Klan, all right? Her father told her that the Klan stopped riding in Independence, Alabama when some of them got left on the porch, okay? And not only did he live that, he told her the story of her Uncle Jake, who refused and challenged oppression. All right. So I knew that I was getting a sister, right, who already by a family tradition was open to challenge oppression and was in that way prepared to do that. Now, because I'm talking about warrior fee, I just have to steal this from your family. It's just a wonderful thing. What they grew up with is a story and a line. I won't give you the story, but the line is, we gonna see who shall and who shan't be whipped. Okay.
Okay. All right.
So that mindset. Now, again, that's critical, and that's the warrior part.
Oh,
thank you,
yeah.
Baba.
So on the healing part, Mama Zakiya, as people over the years have prepared to come to our Warrior Healer Builder 3-day training, as I talk to people, because of course people are like, what's it going to be? And people are like, is it going to be a 3-day lecture? And so it takes a lot of kind of trying to help people understand what they're walking into. I always have them understand that when we say wounds of oppression, we don't necessarily mean that you see somebody drunk on the street or somebody homeless. Those are obvious. You obviously know there's some woundedness there. It's me, in my own situation. My mom being the product of my grandmother and the white man who owned the farm. Her believing that she didn't really have any kind of support or connection to either group, white people or Black people, and raising me to only rely on myself. That's a wound of oppression, and I've gone at that one to like really learn how to work with Black people and trust Black people. So anything that has to do with the oppression that we get, and to the degree that we take it on. So we call that injected oppression. So, it could be, as I said, I'm not smart enough. I can't tell you how many Black women I talk to who say they're going to be okay if they can just get a degree. So they're not okay now. They're not whole people yet. They're not smart enough. They're not okay until they can get something. So we see wounds in various ways. And what I always challenge people to do is to look how they do go back to oppression. Even if it may take you 3 generations to go back. And one thing we ask people in our work is, how did your people, how did the wounds of oppression come down to you and your family? Like, just go back a couple generations, maybe to our parents, grandparents. Like, how did how oppression affected them affect you now? And usually people can make that connection, and then it gets down to doing the healing work. And we really believe, and it's been affirmed over the years, that the tools that we have truly do help with the healing. So again, dealing with our injected oppression, we call it injected because internalized sounds like we took it in willingly, or we, on some level, it belongs to us. While we are not to blame for it, we do take responsibility for healing it.
Can you go into a little bit more, because a lot of people use this term, and since I have been trained in the Warrior Healer Builder model, every space that I'm in, I have to push back on the internalized oppression, the internalized racism that people still use that language, and it comes from like sociology and other parts of the academy. Can you all explain a little bit more to our audience why it's so important linguistically in language, in terms of etymology and meanings of word? Why is it important for us to position injected oppression versus internalized racism?
I'm going to let you do that, because since that was your idea, and then you can toss back the builders to me. And you're muted. You're muted, Wekesa.
It's so important. Thank you, Afia, and thank you, Zakiya, that we get it right, that it's injected oppression versus internalized oppression, because you cannot blame you and heal you at the same time. I'm going to repeat that. You can't blame yourself and heal yourself at the same time. Okay. Internalized oppression, if you ask, you say, Wekesa suffers from internalized oppression, or Wekesa has internalized the oppressor's notion that his nose is too big, his lips are too big, he has a gap in his teeth, whatever. So all of the negate being on negative things, You might say that I internalized them. Well, okay, if you have that linguistic structure, Wekesa internalized this belief, then you say, who internalized them? Oh, Wekesa internalized. So the problem, yes, we know what the oppressor did, but the problem is that Wekesa internalized. So I'm partly to blame for internalizing. Now, this is so important because you can't blame you and heal you at the same time. Okay. What we like to think of it is, I'm coming out of a store, house, somebody hits me in my head. I'm unconscious. While unconscious, they inject poison in my veins, not fast-acting poison, poison that won't kill me right there, but will degrade my life and my body and my limbs, for the rest of my life. Now, when I wake up, it is in me. I didn't internalize it. It was injected in me. And when you ask who injected Wekesa, who injected African people with the thoughts and the beliefs that they aren't good enough, that they can't do that they have to prove their worth, who injected that belief and those behaviors, then you have to say our oppressors. White people and their surrogates, okay, have injected that belief. Now, Wekesa is awake. Wekesa is recognizing that he has been poisoned. It is his responsibility to heal from that. It is not his responsibility to take blame for having the belief that I don't want to go to Africa. I ain't lost nothing in Africa. I want to go to Paris. Okay, those kinds of beliefs that white people and their culture are superior, African people and our culture and our ways are inferior. Those beliefs have been injected in us. I am responsible for healing, for living and healing from that. They are responsible for it being there.
I love that. Thank you for breaking that down. And I think that distinction and even the examples that you gave is so critical, because when I took this training, I could even see areas of, here I am, I'm so woke. I done read Amos Wilson. I done read all these Black authors. And when you guys were explaining this, I'm like, oh, wow, this stuff is so deep and the socialization is so real. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's so baked into everything that some of these beliefs that I have, I still carry, quote unquote, and I'm so woke, right?
And let me give you, before I get, let me give you one example, because what you just said is so baked in. Here's one that's baked in. That cop killed him because he was Black. Now, see, the anger of that is where we think the power is. And it is. I mean, we're supposed to be angry about it. She was denied that job because she was Black. She was refused that position because she was Black. We encourage you to change the language. The reason wasn't because the person is Black. The reason she was denied the job, he was killed, shot, etc., was because of white people's racism toward his Blackness. Okay, the problem is not his or her Africanness, Blackness. The problem is their racist attitudes and beliefs, right, toward it. Now, if I'm 5 years old and you gave me the construct, she was killed because she was Black, then I'm real clear. The problem is they're being Black. So I have motivation to try not to be Black, okay? Because if I'm not Black, then maybe I won't be killed, okay? As opposed to say, no, the problem is not her Blackness, her Africanness, his African. The problem is their racist attitudes, behaviors, and beliefs. That's the problem. And you see what I'm saying? So again, this sense of, if I've been taught that I've injected this, I'm responsible for it, then it ends up mutating and end up things like that. And psychologically, again, you can't blame us and heal us. Okay, I got to heal me of the beliefs that Africa and African things and cultures and everything is not good enough. I got to heal me. I'm not good enough because I got to heal that. They can't do it. I got to heal it. And even if they were to stop oppressing me today, I still would have to heal from the wounds of the past.
That is so critical. Thank you. Mama Afiya, builders.
So yeah, builders, Mama Zakiya, as we look at schools reopening, what we're going to do with our children, all that has to do with our building together, our working together, coming together, working things out, right? Solutions. And all of us want to do that. I mean, Black people want to work it out. We want this thing called unity. That means so much to us. And what we've been doing at Ayah is just facing straight in the face that with all our good intentions, when we do come together, we got a real problem, right? We got this issue called trust. And it makes sense because we have been trained in some ways not to trust ourselves and not to trust each other. So we go straight at that. We go straight at let's build trust. So again, the tools are there to help us do it and not and you know they're not mamby-pamby tools. There's some real to deal with real stuff, right? Because stuff comes up. And one way that we've done this in our work, the Uhuru Asusu that we're starting to talk about some because people are looking at now, like putting money together. I don't know quite how it's going to work out if we do go totally cashless, because that's been pretty much a hand in money in hand kind of situation. But the whole idea of building an asusu or anything else, it's easy to have the idea. We're going to take 10 of us, we're going to put $50 into the pot or 500, and then we're going to have this money that we can use to all of our benefit. It sounds great, except that when I show up. And remember that my mama taught me not to trust Black people with money, right? So again, when we built that Uhuru Asusu, one of the first questions we asked was, who was the person who was closest to you that taught you not to trust your people with money? And we all shared that so we could all know that when it came up, we could be aware of it. And again, the tools for when we did feel that scare about this or that, we had the tools there to work with it. So again, the thing about
What's a
building
susu for people who may not know what it is?
a susu, it's kind of a sharing of money, a collective to share money. They're all over the place. There's some, of course, all over Africa, the Caribbean that they say susu. There are parts of Africa that say the Cameroons say tontines. I first learned about them with Amos Wilson. There's some in D.C. that are doing well in New York. People send their children to college. Some people pay their property taxes. There are all kinds of ways to do it. And some people have been very successful at it. Most of us are very scared to go into it going in. It's like, what if somebody runs off with the money? What if somebody doesn't pay their hand this time? And what we did was to just say, let's just face all that up front and have people know that we're going to have a process to deal with it, not to go in and say, oh, okay, we don't worry about it, we just gonna do it. So again, in building anything, whether we're building family, organizations, buildings, I'm sorry, businesses, institutions, that 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 piece of trust comes up for us because we were trained to distrust each other and of course to distrust ourselves.
Thank you. Both of you mentioned tools. And we may not be able to go into all of it, but and Baba Wekesa, you brought up one of them about understanding what does negate being mean. Name some of the tools and strategies that you all have developed to help with building this WHB model. It would be great to understand some of those different tools that you all built.
Thank you so much. Because we are about how-tos and not just ought-tos, okay? Our community is long on ought-tos, all right? And it's always true. We ought to be unified. We ought, and it's true. It just doesn't take long to get a group of people together. As Afiya said, how many of us agree that we ought to be unified? Cool. The question is, how do we do that? And given that the chains are no longer on our here, the chains we say are here. And those particular chains actually are wounds, and the wounds are implants. So one wound of oppression is the sense that we're not good enough. Any belief that we're not capable, we're not good enough, we're not smart enough. As Afiya was talking about, I got to stand up and I prove. A negate being statement is something, a belief that negates my essence. It negates who I am. It negates my thinking. It negates my beauty. Now, this particular tool is called the river of touches, okay? It's also called the flow of recognition because this river flows. And it really is about how we are socialized to recognize and regard ourselves, okay? And communicate in terms of the recognition. So for example, there are two ways that we recognize each other, are two categories. First, every touch, every way, if I say, hello, how you doing, Zakiya? If I say, Afiya, I love you. If I said, please don't park your car in front of my driveway. I am recognizing you, whether it's verbal or nonverbal. I come into the room and I see you and I don't speak. You know I see you and I don't recognize you. I don't say, hey, what's up? I don't nod my head. I literally may even look you up and down without speaking. Those are touches, okay? Verbal or nonverbal. And they either praise us or negate us, okay? You got that? So they praise us or negate us. That praising or negating can be for two things. They can praise or negate what I do. That is, like praising. I really like the background that you chose, Wekesa. I think that's really fantastic, okay? Or Afiya, I really like the garden and that you grew those collard greens. I'm recognizing, touching her in a way to praise what she did. I also could say, or someone could tell me, Wekesa, who do you think you are to believe that you could create a school? Okay. Now that they're not questioning just what I did. They're not saying the way you built the school was it. I didn't like that you had that policy or that practice. They're like, who do you think you are? What gave you the ability? You know, so they're questioning. That touch goes to my core, to the essence that I don't have the ability or I don't have the right, okay? That is a negate being touch, is designed to have me negate my being or my essence. Now, this society heaps upon our people negate being touches all the time. If I'm watching a cop have his knee on George Floyd's neck, okay, he is saying, he's negating his being at his very breath, and also mine, because I identify with Floyd, and this is not an uncommon occurrence. So even without words, my life is worthless, okay? So those kind of, I'm a thug, okay? I'm a hoochie mama, okay? All I want, I'm a welfare, blah, blah, blah. All I want to do is, I'm lazy, I'm crazy. The society over and over, and they change up the little variations, but the meaning is the same, all right? And Amos Wilson teaches that the society heaps those on us for control and manipulation. You see, if you tell me and it gets injected in me, the belief that I'm not good enough, let's say I'm not beautiful enough in my natural state, then I'm going to run for whatever I can run, and I don't care how much I got to pay for it, so that I can look more like whomever, so that I can get approved of, okay? So I can get conditional approval. I got to have me them 22 or 32-inch spinners, okay, on my car, on my ride, even if I got to put them in and out of the shop. I have to attend this university, okay, right? Because if I do, then I'm going to be somebody, okay? If I don't, then I am nobody, all right? I got to know what your family are. So that's negate being, and that has to be countered. That's a wound of oppression that comes through school and academia and the news and the police on our neck. And that when we have those wounds, we pass them on to our children, to each other, while I'm teaching math, science, social studies, while I'm combing somebody's hair. You know, we better fix this hair, okay, because it's broken, all right, and all of that. And so the tool is called the River of Touches, and it teaches us how to counter that when we're talking to each other. Because if you get on my last nerve, it's been socialized for me to come at you with an attack on your being, okay? Wow. You know, I got some B words to throw at you. I got some N words to throw at you. I got all of that I've been socialized by white folks that they have thrown on me, comes out of my mouth at my child, Okay.
Wow.
All right.
Wow.
And so what we're doing is we're doing the oppressor's bidding. And now those wounds are going in deeper because we become the vehicle for injecting them if we don't heal.
Yes, yes. So this is so good. I feel like we really could have spent the whole hour just talking about this, but you brought up the schooling, and it's a good time really to segue into you know, at least I love to share my experience as well with the school, the Ayah Educational Institute, and the offerings that you all offer to families across the country for children who regular education, as we have known it prior to COVID, was not working for. And I'll share briefly, my story when, my family and I moved and transitioned from Ohio to Maryland. It was a pretty rough transition for our son. And because of all the issues that are plagued, particularly around Black children in the traditional education system, teachers who don't reflect the community, teachers who are not rooted in our community, teachers who don't understand our kids or really could care less on how to really understand them. All of those different things really was at play. And my family and I made the decision to take him out of the traditional system and put him into the Ayah Educational Institute. And we were shocked that it was an online platform. Like, this has been happening for years. Tell the audience about how you decided to have this offering. What was your experience and how you decided to have this offering for children of African descent around the country?
I'll start that because real quickly and tell about my own transition into it. We had a brick and mortar, like so many schools. We had the Ayah House over in the West End, and got invited to consult at a charter
West
school.
End of where? So people know where you're
Atlanta, I'm
Atlanta.
sorry,
Got it. All right.
ATL, and had an opportunity to come to Stone Mountain Charter School, which was the first charter school in Georgia, and we did some work with them. Thought we might want to take that over and reconsider and so forth. Then got invited to Morris Brown to work with their students to have them have a practicum that could be African centered, and that was great. Didn't know Morris Brown was about to close, and then we went to another building, and all in all, after that, as a kid, we were like, through no fault of our own, we don't really have a home anymore. And I have to say to Wekesa, he was just prophetic and visionary in that way. His thing was maybe the ancestors are telling us to go ahead and work this web platform piece. And that was 16 years ago. When he first said it, I was like, man, you are crazy. Like, for real? It's like so many of us, it's like I want to hug him, I want to touch him. Face to face is what we know. And we still say that if you can have face to face, have it. And I will also say that doing it all this time, we have come to see some of the advantages to having it not face to face, having a web platform. And eventually, as I got into it, I was like, you know what? We know how to teach Black children. And I got bold and bodacious with it. I just put out the challenge. It's like, look, since we know how to teach our children, we can teach them better than most people face to face. And we sought out to make that happen, and we have. So yeah, I would just say, like, we've learned how to do it. And our thing was not to replace human contact. We were working to extend it. So it never was like they're on their own. They've always been taught. As you remember, Mom as a kid, the teacher's always present. She's always teaching. They always see each other. Very interactive, very engaging. I sometimes I don't call us online because it's like for what people know about online, that's not us. That's just not us. So if you can imagine, like, we've been able to have students with us who not only don't have an African Center option. In Brandon, Mississippi, that's where one of our families has been. They not only don't have an African Center option, they don't even have a independently owned Black school. So we have been able to extend our contact not only throughout the country, through some parts of the Caribbean, depending on the time zone and the strength of the internet connection. So hats off to Wekesa. As a result of starting, we have not missed one day of school this year. We have continued, and yeah, we got it going on, and we're very proud about it. Yo.
The
Yes, you do.
the part of the impetus. I'm a student of Nana before, okay, Asa Hilliard the third, okay, and Marimba Ani, and John Henry Clark and Amos Wilson. Okay. Now there are others in there, but now Doc Ben and what? But you sit at the feet of these folks, okay, who weren't just talking it. Okay. John Henry Clark and Doc Ben at the Slave Theater in New York, okay, educated 2 generations of Africans in ways that was a tremendous university that we couldn't have gotten, right? And so I'm so inspired. I'm in Alabama. I work with a person at Miles College to get Barbara Clark. I pick him up from the airport. He said, "Who knows about me in Alabama?" I said, "I do." And that's why you're here. And I want other folks to know about you. The point is, these folks who really are consummate educators, okay, and consummate folks living for the liberation of our people, were teaching us. And that set the tone. So when our own daughter in Atlanta came home and said she couldn't do math, we like, oh, no. See, Afiya loves mathematics. She didn't say she had a hard time with this. She said she couldn't do it.
I just want to correct you on that, because that was actually her cousin. Because the oldest is excellent math.
Okay,
Excellent
right.
with math.
Well,
Yeah. That was her cousin.
None of us, she wasn't going to hear it. And so we started in our basement, okay? And then from our basement on and on and on. Now let's get to this web conference platform, this our Ayah Education Institute middle school and high school offering. That's really critical, because folks who register their children as homeschoolers in any state or any country attend and can attend. Now, different than many, we offer diplomas, okay? We offer transcripts, we offer certificates, so that folks can literally go through the program and they can either cherry pick, I want this class, I want this class, I want more of this, less of this, I want enough credit so that they leave. Now, for those who get enough credits that leave with an Ayah diploma, 83.3% of them get full 4-year scholarships for those who want to go to college. At the same time, we know that everybody is not going to college. And so we put people in internships with businesses. We had someone who wanted to go, my daughter, my oldest daughter, she wanted to go into massage therapy and into retail. We put her as an intern in her senior year with the Afrocentric Network, a thriving Black business run by a woman from Kenya who's in this country, all right? And so as a result of her working there and the obligations, she was able to successfully, this student, our daughter, to get this company's products into Walmart, okay? And they still are to this day. What kind of experience it is for that? Second semester, we put her working in an office interning with a licensed practicing conscious Black massage therapist, so that she would get to know, how do you bill, how do you file, how do you whatever. Because we know going to massage therapy school may give you the skills here and the knowledge, but it's not going to build your business for you, all right? So it doesn't matter whether folks go to college, and even if they go to college, our thing is to instill in them, you go to college to build your network and learn skills to work with other Black people to build businesses, all right? So, so we're able to offer that. But now, in addition to all the academic subjects, math, science, social studies, language arts, and whatever, imagine teachers having been trained in that skill set that Warrior Hill built a skill set. So while they're teaching you math and science and social studies, writing and language, they're also teaching you healing from some of the wounds of oppression. I'll give one as quickly as I can. Well, I'll give two. One is called the Family Lore Project. This is where every student who attends Ayah has to begin the process of learning and gathering their family lore, like folklore, the family lore, because family stories, proverbs, songs, stories, all those things, that's what make us family. That's what holds us together. And typical schooling, public or private, alienates us. Now here I'm gonna bring Amos Wilson again, because Amos Wilson taught us that we're alienated by this society from our people and our culture and our families so that we might serve aliens, those alien to our community. He also said if you're going to have African-centered education, it has to heal alienation. You can't just sit there and say, we alienated, we alienated. You got to have a process. And so we said, tell you what, let us to begin to teach language arts and history and architecture, okay, and a number of things. Let's have the students begin to collect a database from their own family, grandma and them, cousin, uncle, aunt, you know, whatever, and take the songs, take the proverbs, take the stories, and then begin to interpret those. So now I got to write an essay about that, all right, about this proverb, this saying that my grandfather had. One student came with a saying from her grandfather. She learned it from her father, who told her this grandfather saying, and the saying was, today is a good day to die. So as she then had to write some paragraphs about what did her grandfather mean, and also what does it mean to her. And she said, my grandfather used this, he was a coach, and he would use this to tell players not to die literally, but to leave everything on the field. And if they did their best work, then that would be enough. Now she said for her, there are some good days to die though. She said, when you've done everything you can for our people, then that would be a good day to die. So notice she's doing the reporting from her grandfather and his interpretation. Then she has to give her own interpretation. This child was 11 years old with that, okay? And so now let's go back to, do you think she's going to pay attention when the teacher says, you know, if you're going to say this about your grandfather, it would be better to use quotations and dialogue so people can hear his voice through your writing? If she says, you know, a comma here would make sure that they don't get confused about what you're saying. That is, this child will attend more to the rules of grammar and the academics because she cares more about what is being said and what the audience will take from it. When you alienate a child and they're just talking about C-spot run and something that doesn't have anything to do with them, or you can take it to the 12th grade and Jacobean drama and all of that, then of course the lessons don't stick because I'm not at the center of it. It has nothing to do with me. You're trying to make me better as opposed to lift what my grandfather lived and taught, okay? So academically, the learning goes up and the retention is higher. At the same time, do you think this 11-year-old child is closer to her grandfather now that she knows that? Absolutely, okay? One more quick example of that on the other side, because that's language arts and also history and also architecture. We'll get into boom. Well, I'll quickly. They take an architecture class and they have to then get their family members to describe the oldest memory of a house that the family lived in. And they use that description to create a house, a drawing, and then take it back to the family members to see if they qualify for that. So, but here's another one. STEM, because people typically, they'll say, okay, language arts, yeah, history, yeah, but STEM is just about science and math. Well, when we're going to introduce middle school students to biology and chemistry, and life science is one of those classes that's an introductory. The name of the class is Melon Mastery. We teach them and introduce them to middle school chemistry and middle school biology through teaching them about the melanin that's in their brain, in their eyes, in their ears, in their skin, of course, okay? And that black line that comes whenever a mother gets pregnant, the belly starts getting big, that black line is melanin. They say, what? We say, yeah, melanin accompanies all birth. And they go, what? So now they're dealing with embryology at the 3rd week and all of that. So my point is, again, we're teaching them the science in ways that have them be closer and more alienated to them. Because if we don't heal alienation while we're trying to make sure that they conjugate verbs and we want trying to make sure that they know STEM and they can get this job and that job, they will only learn those things and learn to use them in service of other people, often against our folks. So that we're old at it. We're not new African-centered. We're come out of that tradition of how do we heal the wounds of oppression. And if we can't design a course that heals alienation and heals those wounds, we won't teach it.
Right. So yeah, so this is good because this is culturally relevant curriculum. Like when people talk about the design and what's cultural relevancy, the story about the 11-year-old and her connection to her grandfather, I think you beautifully outlined that from an academic perspective and a social and emotional perspective, because that's another big area in the education is social emotional learning. And so I really appreciate that. Want to do a quick time check. Also, we have a question from the audience. What's your website? People want to know how to visit you all and learn more about your work.
It's
But
ayahed.com.
Ayah.
AYAED.com.
Awesome. This is a good time too. I feel like we would be remiss not to talk about this in this moment. I know that you all have this online platform for middle school and high school. As we know, many of the biggest school districts in this country, Los Angeles, where you all are, in Atlanta, and San Diego, have announced that they will be all virtual. There's no hybrid, there's no in option even for elementary school students. From your experience, and let us know if you've tested this or not, from your experience, is an online virtual option pedagogically sound, or whatever? Is that something that we think would be beneficial for very young children?
I'll jump into that real quickly. Mama Zakiya, we did offer 2 years ago what we call Ayah Prep. We had several parents who figured that they were very happy with Ayah. They want the younger ones to just get ready for Ayah middle, then go into Ayah high. And so we saw them like about sometimes 7. I think the youngest was like 8 or 9, 7, 8, 9. And I just want to say that what we decided was that most of them would need parental support, especially starting out, right? I mean, part of what I look for is look at having students come. We usually start about fifth grade, right? So 10 years old. We have admitted some 9-year-olds. That 11-year-old that Wekesa referred to, she came to us when she was 9. So we do sometimes have 9-year-olds. And though if you're gonna go to like 5, 6, 7 years
eight,
old, if you just think about a 5-year-old, I mean, think about how much support and guidance a child needs from the parent, just in everything, right? Just in washing the face, getting on clothes, eating. It'll be the same thing for learning. I mean, not to say that now you couldn't like put some electronic in front of their face, and we don't call that teaching. We don't call that teaching. So again, I think most of those students would need some definite support from parents. And if I were gonna do it, I would probably need to require, if not the parent, then a grandparent, uncle, somebody to be there to support that child.
and of course, what you're talking about, thank you, Phil. And then what you're talking about there is how are folks going to work?
Right.
So now, if they're going to be able to support. Plus, guess what? Just because I'm old doesn't mean that my academic wounds don't show up. Particularly when you start saying, okay, now we got to do some algebra or pre-algebra. Okay, and all of that. So we haven't been prepared to run our lives. So even if we're so-called working from home, well, I'm working from home here. I got to be talking to this client, talking to this whatever, doing whatever I got to do. But then my 7-year-old, 8-year-old, 9 needs some help. Well, when you're learning, when the question is asked, that's the best time to teach it. Okay. If it's continually no, 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 I got to do this, then the child goes on to something else, and that opportunity is lost.
And
Okay.
then I just want to say also for the personnel that's going to be teaching, let's say 6th, 7th, 8th graders, especially on a public school basis, this is totally new for them. They don't have the luxury of having had learned how to do it. So let's just be real. Like, they're gonna do what they do, and I wouldn't look for the greatest results. And already they've been failing our children. So it's like, I think it's failure upon failure. Mama Zakiya, I do want to say real quickly, and I know time is of the essence, that I want to say to folks that I know we're all having a hard time putting it together. And right now, I believe that for us as a people, we all got to teach. We got to figure out how to teach, and teach in all kinds of creative ways, around the dinner table, in the car. And for folks that are interested in Aya, part of what I'm trying to have people get kind of wrap their minds around is what we call a cluster site. Now, and usually this has been like physically, right? Like clustering 5 students. Bring, if you got the space, bring students into your house, into your basement, the spare room. It could be a church, community center, and this is for working parents. I'm talking about parents who have to go to a building to work, or sit at a desk, even at their home to work. Because also, let's talk about working at home. You can't really do it well if you're also supervising children. You can't do that. We already, I'm 62. I know that. Okay. So what you can do though, Mama Zakiya, is you can get with 4 other parents, right? 5 children, and each of you can take a half a day to supervise the children. So on Monday, it's your half of the day, and the next part could be Baba Hachim's day. The next day it starts with somebody else. We've got 10. It doesn't have to be parents either. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, people who love the children, to just keep them safe, right? We will teach them. Ayah will teach them. We just need folks to like look out for supervising them, because they're certainly too young to stay home by themselves. Of course, once they get to be 13, 14, 15, yeah, students can't be home by themselves. So again, though, if somebody's not feeling well, there's a place for them to lie down. When lunch is over, they've had good peer
But
socialization.
you know what, Mama Afia,
Go ahead.
I've been thinking about this, because I'm
Okay.
like, I have to tell you, the last 3 months of the school year was a nightmare for my family, and my
As
husband
was
and
for
I
so
both work.
many. Yes.
My husband and I both work from home, and I was like trying to figure it out, like, oh my
Right.
God, like,
Right.
and the oversight, as you know, our baby girl Asada is just turned 6. She was 5.
Yeah.
She was in kindergarten. Her kindergarten year was completely disrupted, and they tried the online. The school district, to their credit, tried to roll this out, and just those kids were not, I mean, the level of oversight, and some of the kids, I felt bad because they had parents who were either police officers, nurses. They were essential workers. Some of them were low wage essential workers, grocery stores and things like that, because the economy never fully shut down in this country. And so there were a bunch of kids that never showed up. They never showed up to class, right? And so, but I've talked to some folks, because, you know, we're in the DMV, and so there are homeschooling collaboratives. There's fear. People don't want to go to nobody's house. They like,
yeah, yeah.
So what you're describing,
Yeah.
parents are not. So can we talk just a little bit
Now
about
you're going to talk about Ngolo.
Let's talk about Ngolo before we have to go, because parents are not going to do this because it's the fear around we going to get the virus. And then the other thing is, well, if we can cluster, why can't the schools do that? So anyway, let's talk about Ngolo.
I do hear you. I hear you. I hear you, Mama Zakiya.
And one of the things, it's really important that we learn as much as we can, and we also come to where we trust ourselves. Ngolo is a movement that we started, Ayah started, and every Monday and every Saturday online we have free classes. And the main thing is this: we did not like when we were hearing the options at the very beginning, late February, early March. Folks says, okay, this thing is super contagious, so social distance. Okay, we're gonna stop the contagion. Over here, they said, and we're gonna be working in the lab for a super duper vaccine, and we're gonna rush with it. Okay, but that's months away, at least months away, if not years. Okay. There's this vast middle that was being ignored. And it just echoed so loud. It's like, excuse me, nobody is gonna tell me, encourage me, support me in building my own immune system. It's like, okay, we got the social distance, that's for the contagion, but I'm just supposed to sit and wait. And during this sitting and waiting, be isolated from you and whatever. This is what I'm supposed to do. When in fact, even the efficacy of the vaccine, when and if it comes, is dependent on my immune system to respond. And there's nobody saying, excuse me, y'all grow some vegetables, eat some better food, cut out or down on your dairy, cut out on things. Like the medical industry knows what are the foods that stimulate respiratory illnesses or that would weaken my respiratory system. Nobody is telling me that, although it is so contagious and it's so damaging and it's going to kill so many people, but nobody's encouraging me. During World War II, folks started doing something. The State Department said, we need victory gardens. Every American, your patriotic duty is to grow some food. And you had this explosion of folk growing food. Well, guess what? We got a pandemic and we don't know where it'll end and stop. But nobody is being encouraged officially by the government. Nobody, no support is good for people to grow food or do other things that would strengthen our immune system. And instead, what's in the place of it is fear mongering. And now we at Ngolo take this virus seriously. We know people are dying and can die. So then we are serious about building an immune system that will defeat the virus. Is there anything that could possibly do that? Well, just 99% of the people who are currently infected right now, their immune systems are winning and keeping their bodies, their deal in a mild condition, not severe, okay, not having to go to the hospital, literally mild. So if 99% of the folks' immune systems are winning, that means they not only keep it mild, they keep it mild all the way through to recovery. What? That's the truth. Those aren't my statistics. Go to worldmeter.com. Okay, well, excuse me. What is it? Worldmeter coronavirus info. I'll put the link in the text chat so that people can go and check it out. Those aren't my numbers. Now, why is it important to have an empowering response? Ngolo is Kikongo, and it means power. Okay, it means energy, and we wanted to have a response, right, that had us be empowered in the process. It doesn't stop people from going to doing stuff in lab. It doesn't stop people who want to social distance. Okay, it says we're going to take matters into our own hands at least and do what we can do to build our immune system. And then we started seeing folks systematically trying to degrade our belief in our immune systems and that the virus is everything and anything. Now, how does that got to do with the question that you're talking about? It means if folks are frightened, and we actually did, since we're at school, we asked students. I said to them, if you were to get the coronavirus, let's have three people. Let's have somebody your age, somebody that's an adult, maybe 35 or 40, and somebody that's 65 or older. Would you please tell me what you think their chances are of dying? The person 65 or older, they said 80%. The person that's in their 35, 40, they said 60%. And then their age, 40%. Our children are scared, okay? The scare that is above and beyond what is required, what is warranted, is to get us to comply and go along with things that we normally wouldn't go along with, okay? It is to introduce things, okay, that a level of control, a level of surrender to authority, and oppressed people should never, ever, ever, give me a break, surrender to authority. We need to question everything all the time. And at the same time, build our capacities. Whether it's build our capacity to make a school, build our capacities to heal ourselves. This is serious business. And so it takes serious building. And so part of our protocol was you get out there in the sun and you get 100,000, 10,000 international units of vitamin D. You cut sugar out, at least cut it down. Way down, cut it out, cut dairy down, move as close as you can to a plant-based diet. This was not like, oh, we ain't just gonna worry about it and we ain't gonna pray about it. Yeah, pray. You're praying, pray, but don't just pray. Faith without works is dead. Now, what that means is when we have the fear mongering, then that means we don't think about things and we just go along with whatever either Trump says or Fauci says. And we're not even able to assess when we're being played by good cop, bad cop. Trump says do this, so that's got to be wrong. Fauci says do this, that's got to be right. Fauci says whatever. And listen, my whole thing is, wait, I'm going to determine what I need to do based on my own assessment. I don't care who agrees with it or who doesn't agree with it, okay? It is not, I'm just being trained to go along with authority and not answer questions whenever there are inconsistencies, because that sense will have me be here and there. And you see, there's something, if you study mass psychology and psychological movement, study Edward Bernays, okay, if you want.
That's a good point.
You want to go study Edward Bernays if you want to deal with mass manipulation. And part of what it is, there's something called disinformation. So what happens is this is what is right, but folk put into the air something else that counters that, okay? So that means I don't know which one. And traditional education, academy, while I'm getting my master's and PhD, teaches, and undergraduate, never teaches me that I can be an authority in anything unless I'm approved of. That is, I go and quote this authority, and I quote this authority, and I put this authority against this authority, and whatever. But never in that can I say, well, you know, while I'm quoting Descartes here, while I'm quoting Fritz Perls over here, or Freud, or whatever, here's what my grandmama said.
Right.
Here's what I think. See, I'm not qualified. So all in the process, I'm trained to be an expert by quoting other authorities. Excuse me? And that has it be where I can look at things and says, excuse me, this doesn't make sense, that I'm not being encouraged, supported financially in other ways, and we're not being supported to build our immune system. And when anything that comes out, any study that shows our immune system is winning, here comes the disinformation. Here comes the disinformation. Boom. Now, we talked about, we got school. School is directly connected to economy.
That's right. And that's, some people feel like, and then we got to wrap this up really quickly, but this is so good. And I want this last point to be made. And schools are directly related to the economy. And people feel that that is why Trump is pushing, and it probably is, he's pushing for the reopening of schools. The problem that I have with that is he's pushing for the reopening of schools without the adequate supports that schools need.
I mean, this is part of the whole thing is you'll get it half baked, and we'll say, yeah, but I'm not. Come on. We're smart enough. I mean, if you're going to drop $7 trillion on these big mega companies, okay?
That's right.
Out of thin air.
And nobody is asking for that for schools. I'm so frustrated with that.
You can't say, excuse me, we need to establish this and whatever and get as close as we can. There are countries around the world who are handling this. Incidentally, there are countries around the world that are not dealing with it. And we ain't going to talk about Africa now. Because see, if you want to talk about that, why is Africa not ready? Don't mean to get to that. The point is that we're between a rock and a hard place.
We are.
Since we're doing like this, then we start to attack each other.
It's already happening.
It's already big time. Part of what happened, because this is what Ngolo knew. So we said, let's build our capacity, okay, for our immune system to win, so that I'm not waiting on the vaccine and I'm not fearful. Let's change our lifestyle. Let's change our whatever, so that we and we can back it up. Okay, with our own lives, with our own experience, with our own research. Therefore, we're not fearful in that same way. We don't mean people aren't dying, but we mean, guess what? The answer is not just waiting on some folks who I've not trusted before, some folks who get $1.6 billion to drop a vaccine who never delivered any kind of product at all, and I'm supposed to trust it. Okay, and the fear mongering has it be where we don't sit and work it out like we would work out any other problem. We just go along to get along.
Thank you, Baba.
And Ngolo says, no, we got empower.
Yeah, thank you, Mama Afiya and Baba Wekesa. This has been a very rich discussion. I know that people walked away with a lot more tools and a lot of things to think about, especially this last part of the conversation around Ngolo. How do people join Ngolo if they want to learn more?
Excellent. Well, if you're on Facebook, whether you're on or not, go and join the Ngolo movement, Ngolo, Ngolo movement, and join that, and you'll see, even if you don't go anywhere else, you'll get information about that. You also can go to, I'm going to get on our mailing list, Afiya O, AFIYAO @gmail, and just say, I want to join. That means you'll get information about the Saturday meetings and how you join on the Zoom call, and on our Monday meetings of where we go over the numbers and all of that. And we also teach other skills that you've been learning. You also from there get to learn, like we talk about WHB, those at the very beginning. We having a three-day, that is August 17th, 18th, and 19th from 9 to noon.
Okay.
From 9 to noon. We call it BN7 because it's a truncated version, okay? The Blacknificent 7, 3 skills and 4 steps, okay? And that's, again, from 9 to noon, all right? And that's just powerful. So if you want to know more about that, you can look for it. That'll be getting it out. We got a good crew in St. Louis that has educated people who are homeschoolers coming together, and literally they want to be coming. So that's how you can get in
And
touch with us.
let's
Yeah.
see, I want to shout out Ngolo Gardens too. Growing, I think we're like three something members. I'm not sure
No,
how many now.
400. You're in the 400s.
Oh, that's right, right. We did hit
full-time.
400. And I want to say a lot of these are new growers of food, Mama Zakiya, so people can come and learn how to grow anywhere in the ground, on their balconies, on the porch,
Wow.
on the windowsill, because it is important that we learn how to grow
It
for
is.
ourselves, and they can get that support there as well.
Yeah.
You can
Well, I
find us
just
on
appreciate
Facebook.
you all.
You
Yeah,
know,
find them on Facebook.
and that is, you find Wekesa Madzimoyo, you find AYAED.com or Ayah Education Institute. You put Ngolo and you'll see the Ngolo movement or Ngolo Gardens. Check up with us, please do, because we're doing the work. Just we're doing the work. And I'll
Yes,
give you your telephone number, okay? 404-201-2356. 404-201-2356. You'll see open house to come and learn about our school and our educational offerings. Ngolo to learn about that. WHB. We're doing a lot, and I'll be honest with you, our web presence doesn't keep up with the work that we're doing, because we're still working on that. At the same
That's
time,
right. Because you're too busy doing the work. You ain't even got to apologize. You're too busy doing the work.
And we want you to look
And
forward to
and Mama Zakiya, I want to shout you out for all your work. We see your work. We appreciate you. I want to salute the warrior you are. I love I see you like kind of like a bloodhound of sorts. It's like you're gonna be sniffing out stuff. I mean, stuff that's not in our best interest. I count on you to really see it. A lot of us don't have that vision and that nose. You be on it, and thank you for that. We don't take that for granted. We appreciate you for that.
Thank you. This has been one of the most fulfilling shows that I've done. I feel like I'm leaving some things undone, but we're certainly going to have you all come back in the future, maybe in a month or so. But I think that this information that you all shared is critical. We have gone over time, so I want to, respect our producers and everything. They probably have other things to get on to. But thank you all so much to the listeners. We will have Wekesa and Afiya back. Don't worry. We'll have them back on the Building Power broadcast. But please join us again next week. We're here, same place, same time. And we will be having Sister Christina Lassiter from the National Parents Union to join us to talk a little bit more about the work that they are doing. Thank you all very much. Until next week.